Hello, Flosstube. Julia, aka Julicious here, coming to you on this Thursday, July the 6th, 2023, and Black Lives Still Matter. My pronouns are they and them, and if you're new here, welcome. I live about a 10-minute train ride from Center City, Philadelphia. In Pennsylvania in the Northeast USA. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me. It means a lot because there's a lot of creators doing a lot of really fun things, more interesting than me, and so it means a lot that you're here. Thanks everyone for your kind comments on my finishes video. I have plans to do some framing. My birthday was on this past Friday. I turned 41. I got a little bit of money from my in-laws, which I'm going to put towards framing. It's probably gonna be Nantucket Girl Sampler. I put too much work into that and I'm too proud of it to let it sit in the drawer for much longer. So then I just had to figure out where she's gonna live. But that's a future problem. What should we start with? I have a little bit of happy mail, which is rare, but let's go with it. I also have a finish. So the first piece of happy mail is Megan of Plexity. Megan, wonderful human, met on a Zoom call organized by Michelle Bendy. Those of us who donated to the Lavender Clinic fundraiser got to have like a group chat, and we all brought things to kind of swap just so that everyone could get a goodie. And I am going to be sending Megan some hand-dyed yarn, not dyed by me. And in return, she sent me a project bag, project not included. This look, and a little notions bag. And so look at the corners. I know we're all, we all always go gaga over corners, and now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking like, well, I don't, if corners are something that you as a crafter struggle with, I don't want you to feel bad, because you're still doing awesome. Anyway, it's beautiful. She asked me what colors I like, and I said, well, orange is my very favorite, but if you would see it in the autumn or in Indian food, it's a safe bet that that I will love it. So it's so good. And this has one fabric on one side, another fabric on the other, and it's reversed on the inside. Megan, thank you so much. I love it. And Maggie the Mess Maker now has her own project bag. What else? I ordered a couple of things. This I ordered a little while ago. So if you'll remember, back in January, Christine of Calico Whimsy and I started an RTO kit together. That was our New Year, New Start, with the flavor of salt, wind, and sun, with the little seagull peeking in the window. And Christine and I get along like hair on a dog. We had such a good time, and we decided to do it again this coming new year. And we decided we're going to deviate a little bit. We're not necessarily going to stitch the same pattern, but we were going to pick something from RTO. And I was perusing, and you know, RTO has themes, like they have little bundles. Like the Flavor of Salt, Wind and Sun has the little seagull that Christine and I stitched. Although Laura of I Stitch Birds is working on it too, and it's looking great. Laura, keep going. But it also has, there's a pattern of like a sailboat and like seascapes. So they have bundles of themed patterns. And one of their bundles is called Grandmother's Old Garden. And what I liked about them is they are small, a lot smaller than what we did last year. There's a swing, there's a wheelbarrow full of flowers, a bicycle. I was this close to getting the one that's an easy chair with a basket of yarn and knitting needles sticking out of it, like that. Almost came home with me. But in the end, I decided on the rooster. Because look at his face. Is it a rooster? Yeah, I think it's a rooster. Oh my gosh, look at it. Look at it. Christine, I think, was originally gonna go not with this guy, but with another pattern in this series. But then she found one. Christine, help me. Is it a wheelbarrow or a bicycle? Or am I completely off base? I should have looked up in our Instagram conversation so that I would have been prepared, but that's not how things go. Anyway, so Christine and I are stitching RTO again on January 1st, 2024. I'm just going to put this out there. If you want to stitch this with us, or an RTO kit that you've been meaning to stitch as your new start, hop aboard. We'll start like a little group chat. I don't think we have a hashtag because we're not that cool. Or rather, I'm not that organized. But yeah, so that'll be fun. And also, speaking of 2024, so those of you who watch Michelle Bendy of Bendy Stitchy, and if you're watching me, you probably watch her. She is hosting the first Most Magnificent Ink Circles Round Robin, and she had said several months ago, like, this is not her exclusive idea. If you want to stitch or organize an Ink Circles Round Robin, go for it, because, you know, Michelle's rule, and it's a good rule, is you can stitch with us. As long as you're not, you know, a Nazi, you can stitch with us. So one of the patterns in Michelle's Round Robin is the Hamsa mandala. And I saw that and I was like, I need it. I need it. In my Jewish house, I need it. So I bought it. I purchased this from Top Knot Stitcher Shop, run by Abby Top Knot. More on that later. I don't know if I would do it in green, but I have time to think about it. Anyway, I have decided that I'm going to host next year in 2024. I haven't ironed out details yet. I am going to host an Ink Circles Round Robin. So if you're interested, hit me up. I guess if more than 3 other people are interested, we'll have to make more groups, but that's okay. That's okay. Other things to think about. I generally prefer to stitch on linen. The smaller the better. I am not in the majority in terms of my stitching preferences. So what I'm probably gonna do is pick a 16 or 32 count for this, just to make my other participants' lives a little bit easier. And I think when we get closer, we'll have some conversations about, especially if there are people who want to join who are really only comfortable stitching on like Aida, then I'll find a pretty Aida for this. Some years ago, I would have been too precious for that, but no. So anyway, this is very much in the future, but if you are interested, if there is an Ink Circles mandala that you love, but I mean, there are so many beautiful things to stitch and only so much time in the world, right? So you'd only have to stitch a quarter of it. And 3 other friends would stitch the rest and send it back to you. And you stitch a quarter of 3 other ones. So if that sounds like it might be fun next year, let me know. Along with any concerns, we'll figure it out. I organized off the cuff, just because I thought I probably can, I organized a cross-stitch retreat. If I can organize a cross-stitch retreat halfway across the country from where I live, I think we can do this. I think we can do this. So, yeah, let me know. I'm excited. I love that. This one's charted in DMC. I think I'm gonna poke through my Color and Cotton stash because I have a lot. Anyway, happy mail. That was the happy mail. This I will talk about at the end. Do you want to see what I finished? You know what I finished. If you were paying attention 2 videos ago, you know I did it. I finished it. Cricut Collections, The Voyage Home. I did it. And I love it. Okay, so this is charted mostly in DMC with 1 overdyed in the sky. I stitched it on a 32 count linen from Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers, which is a local to me dyer, but I think everybody knows Fiberlicious at this point. She's really successful. The fabric is called Once in a Blue Moon. And I changed the lighthouse from being a stripy lighthouse to being a Barnegat lighthouse at Long Beach Island in New Jersey. The lighthouse that I grew up visiting throughout my childhood, the lighthouse that I am so nostalgic for, I carry it around with me all the time. So these little houses were no joke. They weren't difficult, but that's some heavy stitching. Especially because the brickwork looking stuff, it looks like, if you just glance at it, it looks like it's mindless, but it's not. You actually have to pay attention. Ask me how I know. So yeah. So happy. Do you want to stitch this? Say lighthouse somewhere in your comment. Tell me your favorite lighthouse. Have you ever seen a lighthouse? Have you never seen a lighthouse? And the next time I do a video, I will do the random number generator thing. And then I'm gonna put that between a couple of pieces of cardboard, put it in a mailer, say a prayer to the God I don't believe in, and let the USPS do its thing. And yes, I will stitch it internationally. I will send it internationally because I can, and I don't want you to miss out if you really love it. So that is what that got finished in May. And for the rest of the month of May, what I worked on, thinking I could finish it, but this is deceptively complicated and not complicated, just dense and fiddly. The Basket of Cherries from Blackbird Designs Garden Club series that I am pulling threads from my overdyed stash and just kind of winging it. It seems to be working out pretty well thus far. The plan is to stitch these individually and sew them together in a quilt to do like a little wall hanging with. Will that happen? I hope so. I am stitching this one on 36 count sand from Picture This Plus. And that's how far I got. So pretty daggone far. I finally found a blue. That is a mystery silk from Vicki Clayton. And it was tiny silk. So I've been stitching this 1/2 because it's 36, but I actually did 2/2 for the light blue inside because it's really fine. So that's what I did in May. June came along and I decided that I was going to stitch monogamously in June because my 40th birthday start last year was Maggie the Messmaker from Dimensions. And a problem I ran into is, number one, 3 days before my 40th birthday, I got COVID. And I had symptoms. And it sucked. So I didn't get very much done on this. So I never felt like I properly really sank my teeth into this pattern. And I wanted to do that. And I have to say, here at the beginning of July, and the past 5-6 days have been nuts. Like, I have not done any crafting whatsoever. Like, work has been off the chain. It's been hot and muggy and sticky, and I just want to like sit on my porch and look at the birds and drink iced tea, and I don't have the bandwidth. I haven't had the bandwidth. But I think I'm going to work on this some more. This is the progress I made. Let me put something behind this, which I'm happy with. I kind of want to push for a page finish because so it's 4 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have some anxiety about this because I think I miscounted somewhere in here. And that's going to be a problem. However, this lines up like the intersection of the other 3 pages, all good. So if I have to fudge some things in here, which you know I don't like fudging. My anxiety does not like it. But this is a kit. I only have so much floss. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. If I'm wrong, please tell me. Anyway, you will notice that in the chart, there's a little American flag. I didn't want to stitch the American flag. And if that bothers you, just let it go. Just let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I stitched a pride flag. I wanted to stitch the trans pride flag, but there are 7 stripes here and I couldn't figure out how to make it work. So I just stitched the modern, not the current pride flag, but one of the basic ones. And then I think I will try to stitch the base in some trans colors. I should be able to fudge that. I started to do some back stitching. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna work on this for a little bit more. I don't know if I'll get this whole page done. I'm not gonna beat myself up if I'm just not feeling it at some point, but that's the goal. And also, next week we are going to Niagara Falls, Canada, with my in-laws to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary, which was 2 years ago. It's safe. We feel safe traveling now. And I'm not bringing a giant kit to Canada with me. I'm going to bring a tiny cross-stitch project. I'm going to work on Shiny Things by Lindy Stitches, which I'm a little over halfway done with. And I'm going to bring some knitting. Knitting project to be determined. Yeah. Here's where we are on Shiny Things. That's coming to Canada with me. And next month you'll find out what knitting project came with me. Now I can talk to you about another thing involving Abby Topknot. So I purchased the Hamsa Mandala from Topknot Stitcher Shop. I also purchased Heartstring Samplery's Love Letter to a Cross Stitch Nation. If you have not gone and seen Leah Noel of Rhubarb Patch Studios finish of that pattern, you need to run, not walk. It's beautiful. And I was watching her stitch it and finish it up, and I was like, yeah, I need to stitch that. So I also purchased Love Letter to the Cross Stitch Nation from Abby Topknot. And Abby sent me the wrong pattern. And I looked at it for about 30 seconds and I was like, oh, I totally see how this happened, because I would absolutely do the same thing. Heartstring Samplery, same designer. Love Letter to the Cross Stitch Nation versus Love and Joy. I guarantee you that in her library of patterns, these were right next to each other. And I am the captain of going to the grocery store, looking at the thing I want to buy, and then picking up the product totally different that's right next to it. All the time. So I can't get mad at this. I'm not mad at this. Holy crap. But I emailed her because I still want Love Letter to the Cross Stitch Nation, and I was like, hey friend, this thing thank you for the patterns. This happened, and I totally get how this happened. So how about I pop this in the mail back to you, and with the packing slip, and here's my order number and all of that. And then you get it, you send me the correct pattern. And Abby wrote me back and she was like, holy crap, I am so sorry that happened. You know, she gave me a couple of options of things we could do, because apparently, like, she had no more copies of Love Letter to the Cross Stitch Nation in stock in her home. And she said, so I can refund you, or I can just put you on the list. Like the next time, as soon as when I place a new order from Beth at Heartstring Samplery, like one of those patterns is just going straight to you. And one other thing, I forget. She said, oh yeah, or we can also just wait a few days and see if it turns up. And I opted for option 2, just because it seemed the safest in terms of me getting it. And I'm not going to start it anytime soon anyway. I'm probably not going to start it till next year, if that. So what do I care? But then Abby said, you know, please, if you would stitch this, or if you know someone who would, please keep it as a thank you. And I'm kind of like, thank you for what? And then my partner Josh said, you work in healthcare. You've worked with the public before. You know what? You weren't a dick. And I said, you shouldn't have to thank people for not being jerks. Anyway, I'm going to give it away. I think this is Christmas themed. Love and joy come to you. Isn't that like, here we go, a wassailing or something, something, something? I don't know. But it's beautiful. It's monochromatic. So what I'm going to do, because I've kind of noticed that I think more people follow me on Instagram than follow me on YouTube, just given what the statistics that YouTube gives me. So head on over to my Instagram later today. I'm going to give this away on Instagram because I feel like it would reach more people. And I also want to hype Abby up because she was so kind and didn't have to do that. This is stitched on Graham Cracker Fabrics. That's such a great company name, Graham Cracker Fabrics. I love that. 32 count in the colorway Tea Set. It's beautiful. And it's just one color, Classic Colorworks Tennessee Red Clay, which I do not own. But yeah, so head on over to Instagram. I'll decide. I'll probably wait and do a drawing after I get home from Canada. And I'll be home very late on July 14th, which is also Josh and my 18th wedding anniversary. So that weekend, I don't have to work. So I'll do the drawing then. That's just me thinking out loud at no cost to you. But yeah, thank you, Abby. You're very kind. Please pet your cat for me. He's so handsome. I have an orange fluffy cat too, who's afraid of everything, which is why he doesn't come here very much. And that's all I have for you. Do you want to talk about books very briefly? I finished reading 2 recently. One was an audiobook, but you could get it regular analog. You could get an analog book. It's called Winter Counts by David Hesco Wombley Widener, or Wider. I think I've given you enough of his name that you can find it. He is a Lakota author, and he wrote this kind of crime thriller story that takes place on the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota in the Lakota Nation, in which we have the viewpoint character Virgil, who is a thug for hire, is an unkind way to put it. What I liked about this book is that it really highlights how much the U.S. government screws over indigenous communities. Usually, so tribal police cannot prosecute felonies. The U.S. federal government prosecutes felonies, but the U.S. federal government is very choosy about what they will and will not prosecute. So for example, if someone on your reservation sexually abuses your child, that's a felony. Likely the U.S. federal government is not going to bother. So people like our main character get contacted by, say, families of said abused child and said, will you please beat the ever-loving hell out of the person who did this? Here's some money. Virgil has a nephew who he takes care of. His sister was killed in an auto accident when his nephew was very young. His nephew's about 14 and in high school. And one day, his nephew overdoses on heroin. He doesn't die, he almost does. And Virgil is kind of drawn into drugs being brought into the reservation. And the big mystery is like, who's doing it? How are they doing it? The federal government gets involved. If you like crime thrillers, you're gonna like this. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I kind of felt like I didn't quite believe a lot of the epilogue. Like, I felt like things worked out a little too well, or with very little complications, whereas intellectually I know some of the things that happened, like there would be complications. Authority figures would have some questions. But it was entertaining, and it just underscored how badly we treat Indigenous folks. Like going to the hospital and the white doctor's very much like, well, look, sir, the federal government provides you with free, shitty health care. So you better be grateful for your free, shitty health care. I occasionally think that once my child leaves the nest, that working for Indian Health Services would be something that I might find fulfilling, but at the same time, I don't necessarily want to be a part of a system that's that toxic. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. If you like it, give it a read. 3 out of 5 stars. It's not gonna blow your world, but it was fun. I had fun. I would read another thing by that author. The second thing I read is by another Indigenous author who I like very much. He writes spooky stuff. His name is Stephen Graham Jones. If you have not read his novel called The Only Good Indians, I feel that you should. I'm not gonna say I feel sorry for you, because maybe horror isn't your jam, and that's valid. But if horror is your jam and you haven't read The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, go to your library. So speaking of libraries, I was at my library last week and I saw that they have Stephen Graham Jones's latest book, Don't Fear the Reaper. The problem is, this is the second book in a trilogy. I had not yet read the first book, so I took this up to the counter and I said to the librarian, I said, hi. He said, hi. And I said, how are you? And he said, good. How are you? And I said, I'm good. I've noticed, I checked the shelves and I checked the catalog. You guys don't have the prequel to this book. Can you help me out? And the librarian said, well, just give me a few minutes. And they typed on the computer and they said, hey, the library 10 minutes away has this. Would you like me to put it on hold for you and they'll send it over? And I said, oh, that's so nice of you. Thank you. So that is how I read the first book in this series, called My Heart is a Chainsaw. And then a few days ago, I started this. We're not going to talk about this. We're going to talk about My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is a story about a young woman named Jade. She is, I forget what tribe she's from. She's half Indigenous. I think her mom is white. And she lives in this small town in northern Idaho. And she is obsessed with slasher movies. And she believes that a slasher has come to her town. And murders are indeed happening. And I don't know, I can't really say much more to give it away. There's a new girl in her high school named Letha, who is very kind and very smart and very innocent, who Jade sees her and she's like, oh my gosh, she's the final girl. She's gonna save everybody from this slasher. I have to like tell her and train her up so that she has all the tools she needs to take out this slasher. Doesn't really work like that. I really don't want to say anything more to spoil it. It is the first in a trilogy. It tackles things like gentrification, massive trigger warning for sexual abuse, and PTSD from same. There's a high school teacher who's like Jade's one ally, like believes in her because nobody else does. You know, she's this loser kid and her dad's a drunk and never going to go anywhere. And she has the local sheriff, and I do not say nice things about law enforcement easily. But this is also a fictional character. The local sheriff kind of tough loves her a lot because he has an idea that there's some dark stuff gone down in her personal life. So it's like she's got the sheriff and this teacher who are like the only people who really try to give her a break. But she has an encyclopedic knowledge of slasher movies. And yeah, there is a slasher. And the rampage is pretty intense. I'll say that. The rampage is pretty intense. I'm glad I liked it so much that I'm reading book 2. So yeah, My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones and Winter Counts by David Heska Wanbley Weiden, Weiden. It could be Whedon, but I grew up very familiar with Germanic languages, and EI is pronounced I in my brain. So anyway, I will link the Goodreads links to those down below so you have an easier time. Anyway, almost 40 minutes in. That's pretty good length for these. If you are in the Northern Hemisphere, wear your sunscreen, drink lots of water, have a wonderful summer. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I hope your fall and winter, I hope you enjoy them. I don't know what fall and winter look like in the Southern Hemisphere. I will visit during that time of year one day. But I hope you're staying warm and getting lots of stitching and knitting and cuddles with your pets and people you love. So with that, off I go. Take care, everyone. Thank you again for stopping by, and I'll catch you around the internet.